Hello, and if you are joining us for the first time, welcome. We are Remarkist, communities of fans who watch television shows and movies together virtually, but as if we're in the same room, gathered around the same television. We do this using the Clubhouse app, and we would love to have you join us for future watches. You can simply make an account on Clubhouse and search for our name Remarkist to find our club. Or if you'd like more information about the project as a whole, please visit remarkist.com to learn lots more about who we are and what we do. As for our recordings, remember that we always get our episodes started but paused at the 0-second mark and count down to pressing the play button together at the same time. That way, our experience can be as synced up as possible. You can pause this for a moment to get that set up, or if you're ready to go, let's get this thing started.
And I am recording, and we are going to all press our play buttons at the same time on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's keep our mics off if we're not speaking. Jessica.
Oh.
Oh, I've seen this meme a few times. Hello. I always thought that meme was in reference to the pizza.
No, hence why I put it in tonight's tweet. Surprise!
Gosh, you learn something new every episode. Basically what we're doing here.
We're not rewriting the dialogue.
No, but what Dean said, you're not even listening to the dialogue.
At least he knows when to shut up.
Fun. So I hear it's Oscars night tonight.
It is. I was watching it till this, and then I'm going to go back and watch it later.
Wow.
Really
everybody who's here is skipping Oscars for this. That is some real Gilmore love. That is some Gilmore love.
I actually thought you might cancel it, John, because of Oscars night. I was like, maybe it's important to John.
No, not at all.
I'm not an Oscars fan this year.
They were kind of a snooze fest. I watched the first 2 hours.
I watched the red carpet, that's it.
Sally's in this episode. Hey, David is in this episode. Ooh.
I legit sing the song every time I paint my house.
I also just love how that line was written, but she just makes it feel like she really genuinely was coming up with it in the moment. So such great performance. Also, like the amount of Taylor that we've gotten from the moment that Taylor was introduced, it's like he's been in almost every episode. It's so clear that the writers just absolutely loved him the moment that he stepped foot, and they just wanted to write him in constantly.
And now just almost feels like he's been there all along.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time where it was just like, you know, he was just the owner of the of the market, you know, and then all of a sudden he arrives and it's like he's main.
I love the looks on their faces. It must be so boring to be that wealthy and like inhibited by convention.
Oh, the camera just tilted really weird. Hey there. Is that the first troubadour?
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Nice. I imagine we'll talk more about that Dean and Rory conversation.
Oh, please, thank you.
I always thought that Lorelai and Rory would be good cat people. Like, it doesn't require a lot of attention. They can come and go, love on it when they want.
Did I miss how long Luke's father has been passed away?
No, but I think it's since it's like college or something like that. Oh my God.
Oi, oi, oi. Oh, this is the first time that we're seeing that, right? Or is that the only time we're seeing that?
No, it's the first time. Also, I want to say that Duran Duran is new wave, not pretty boy rock.
This is my favorite
I
part.
was going to say the same thing.
Just kind of takes us back on how long she's really been deceiving Mrs. Kim.
Yeah, I just feel like when I was doing the show, either this was talked about a lot or they did it in the season where we were there. Like in season 3, she opens up the floor like that, or maybe not. I don't know.
Oh, look at the trumpet.
I don't think I've ever noticed the trumpet before.
Another pet death. Or gone.
Don't be so morbid, John. We don't know it's dead.
It's not a pet, it's a midterm paper.
And of course, he would know of all people.
Goodness.
I love the look on his face. Like, what in the world is going on?
Trick or treat is like the same look that's going on my face. Some Esquivel.
It's like the worst pickup line. We have a chick lost in the house. I need your help.
Yeah, it certainly seems suspect. What a bag boy.
I feel like we need that as a shirt. What a bag boy. I love how this became an inside joke.
We need our own inside jokes here.
I hope somebody shows up to Fan Fest wearing a shirt that says that.
I just noticed that they both took the trash home with them.
Too awkward not to.
Didn't they just go on their first date last episode?
I was literally just thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
I'm glad you
about
said
it.
that.
How much time has passed since that?
It was 2 episodes ago.
Exactly.
But
so
I
that's
think,
like
like,
a few weeks ago.
They went on 3 days that episode.
Yeah, I was gonna just say that Rory makes mention that Lorelai tells Rory that they're on their 3rd date already this past week or something along those lines. So they've been on multiple.
favorite line.
Emily is so astute.
She's well practiced at reading between.
Oh, I wish she hadn't said that. I wish she hadn't said that. I really wish she hadn't said that because I was so on her side until that moment. Emily, that is.
Yeah, she always has a way of ruining it.
I'm betting we got a kiss in this episode. I'm just betting. I'm gonna put some money down.
Wait, what did you say?
I'm putting some money down. I'm putting some money
Good luck
down.
with that. Wait, for what?
Don't make a bet with a bunch of people who've seen it, Don.
Yeah, I know.
You can owe us all money.
I'll
Drop
take
your
it.
memos. Yes.
Such a timely statement.
Any wide shots of this,
Right?
of this area of the, any wide shots of this area of the town just really look so studio to me. It's like the close-up stuff is where I just sort of forget that this is on the lot. But anytime they go wide.
Watch, John. Watch, John.
Pay attention.
Oh. Did he say nice shirt? Take it off.
Yeah,
Yes, he
that
did.
he did. Yes, he did.
All right, can I take my bet back?
Yeah, 'cause I
No,
was about to drop my Venmo.
not at this point.
Hmm.
And totally different man driving a motorcycle, not even trying to pretend like that's the same guy.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
I'll just say one thing. I'm so glad that David Suckles is not my phone.
Oh. Next episode's gonna, oh shoot, man. These Netflix things really, they just really jump right into them.
Yeah, you got to hit that home button real quick as soon as the credits start.
I hit
Yeah.
pause. So.
Wow. Wow, that was a really cool ending.
How much did we win?
Yeah.
Oh, God,
Did we drop our Venmo?
I bet.
I forgot. I didn't hear what you bet. What did you
I
bet?
bet $20,000 each of you. Like, each of you. Oh my God!
Well, I
Can
won't
you
have
do the
to
math.
work.
Like,
Amen.
no,
I just think the timing of you saying, "I bet we get a kiss," and all of us being like,
Right.
"What?
It's so
No."
funny. I know, and then you're like, John, shut up. Please watch this, so that you know that you are about to lose.
That's just a great moment. What he says, like, you couldn't have missed the line. Come on.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was crazy what he said. And
Why do you think I said pay attention?
yeah. Also, that is also not what I imagined from that character, I guess. I mean, like, you know, just the little interaction that I had with David on set, and the little scenes here and there. I just didn't, I wouldn't have thought that was who he was. And I don't know, maybe he evolves over the course of the series by the time, you know, but by the time I was on the show.
It's still season 1.
Yeah. But, you know, guy on motorcycle, like, it's all coming together, you know? Wow. All right. Okay. So first of all, I'll say, for any of you who are in the audience, we are opening the couch back up, although we had two spots available this whole time. But I encourage any folks who are in the audience to please raise your hand and come on up if you'd like to join us up here on the couch to chat about what we just saw. Really strong episode. I don't want to go. I don't want to go first here on like my impressions of certain things. So yeah.
Okay. Besides, I don't know if everyone caught what I said earlier, but Chris is just like, it makes sense, and John, you kind of touched on it. It makes so much sense when Lorelai said in the very beginning, does he have a motorcycle? Because if you're gonna throw your life away, you better have a motorcycle.
Right. Yeah.
Chris shows up, and
well, also
and
remember
then,
when she's talking to Dean. Remember, she says, you know, your motorcycle. Like, I don't have a motorcycle. Your motorcycle. You know, like,
yeah.
You know, all of that stuff. It's just all woven together now here.
Yeah, and I really like. I mean, I've seen this episode countless times, so thank gosh I was muted. So reciting it half the time. But I really liked the argument between Dean and Rory in front of Dozie's, when he's like, did we really just have an argument about the Donna Reed show? And like, everyone's gonna have their own opinion on the whole like wife cooking for her husband, having it on the table once they get home type thing. But I just I thought it was really funny. I think it was really funny. It wasn't like, I wasn't like mad or anything like that, except for Dean was kind of wrong. But I thought it was funny. And I actually, when I first watched this, I actually went back and watched the Donna Reed show because I wanted to know exactly like what all the hubbub was. And the Donna Reed show is actually a pretty good, funny show.
So the first time I caught wind, or like I heard about this episode, so when I got into Gilmore Girls, my first episode was all the way into season 4. It was the Reigning Lorelai. For those of you who know, that was my first ever episode, and I was hooked. So joined a lot of
interesting episode to start on.
I really liked that episode. It really had me hooked. Like, I loved Kelly Bishop's performance in that one, but I'll gush about it more when we actually get to it. But I joined like a lot of groups that would talk about Gilmore Girls. So like one of which being the Gilmore Girls subreddit. And so like when people talk about the fact that they're not Team Dean, they'll sometimes use this episode in particular to justify their reasoning. And so by the way that they were talking the way that they would talk about Dean was like they would kind of imply that he was like just straight up a sexist, misogynistic pig, and that Rory should have broken up with him like right after this debacle. And so when I finally get to this episode the first time around, I was like, okay, it wasn't as bad as I thought. Like, I was expecting Dean to say just something awful, like straight up awful, like something like, oh, like go make me a sandwich or something, or like women belong in the kitchen or something just like that. But I was watching it and like I cut Dean some slack. I was like, okay. I mean, I think he was wrong for that joke about the oppressed housewives having to buy their husband's dinner. I was like, oh, okay, like you're kind of pushing it there, bud. But it wasn't as bad as I thought. And so my question was like, okay, this is me viewing it with my modern sense and kind of understanding the societal expectations of women now in like 2021. And it probably was very different in 2000. So they're viewing that show, the Donna Reed show, anachronistically because it's so old and they're like in the year 2000, so things have obviously changed for women like by then. And so things have shifted for women yet again in the past like 21 years. So I was like, maybe like they kind of viewed Dean as like worse because maybe that lifestyle that women should be like cooking, cleaning, and child rearing, maybe that was still sort of expected by women around this time. So I wanted to ask for like the people who were around this time and like they were alive and they kind of understood those societal expectations and pressures on women. Like, what was it like? Was it kind of like shifting towards like where we're at now in 2021, or what was it like? I'm curious to know.
Somewhere in between, I'd say. My mom made dinner for my dad. I grew up, we had dinner every night and all that stuff. But she also worked. But my dad didn't expect it so much. She just did it because she had 2 kids to feed as well. But I think it was somewhere in between at that time. But I remember
don't think it's any different from now, honestly. I think when we saw that episode as I was probably 17 or 18, we were just as like, what are you talking about having the dinner ready on the table? Like, I think it's pretty much the same as now.
Oh, I'm probably a little older than you then because, well, I am a little older than you then, but I used to watch the Donna Reed show in the reruns after school when I was a kid. So that's how old I am. But I'm not like as old as Donna Reed, but I mean, it's just, so for me, in my time, it was kind of somewhere in between, but I was a full-blown adult, not living with my parents in 2000.
Because I was going to say too, like, for me, like, it's different culturally, because like my parents immigrated from Mexico. Like, there was such a stronghold. Like, there's so much that I can get into about Mexican culture and stuff, but it's very much like women are very much expected to be the domesticated partners, and men are supposed to be like the breadwinners of the family. They're supposed to be the protectors of the family. And I know, like, with my parents and the older generations, like, they were definitely raised and indoctrinated in that way. And like, I don't want to get too radical or anything. So like, I understood where Dean was coming from like a cultural perspective, because I grew up witnessing that. Like, my mother was the type to cook dinner because she had 2 kids to feed. But, you know, I want to say, like, my dad sort of expected it, but like, then again, like, I don't want to dive too much into like my home life, because I don't want to make it all about me. I want to make it about the show. But like, that's why when I watched this episode for the first time, I was like, okay, it's not as bad as I thought. Like, I don't think Dean is this pig who Rory like should break up with. I think there's more damning evidence later, but I think like I cut him some slack here. I don't know what anybody else thinks.
Yeah, I'm curious the room here, because I didn't get that from him at all. But you know, at least up here on the couch, I'm the only man. I'd like to know everybody's thoughts on Dean. Is this a moment that really sours the fandom for the Dean character?
Not for me. That comes later.
I mean, it was the start of it for me, because even in like, I mean, I was a kid, literally like in elementary school when this first aired. So like, and my mom was a single mom, so like, I didn't really know the difference. But I mean, even at a young age, I was like, okay, this isn't cool, because even in the year 2000, I don't think that it was like that for parents, even outside of the TV show. And so that kind of started my dislike for Dean. But as Chris said, my dislike for Dean evolves even more as we get into this, as we get closer to the end of the season. So,
I think, like, for myself, I didn't even think anything was that weird about it at the time when I first saw that, because like I was raised in a 2-parent household, 3 kids. You know, both my parents worked, but the only time my dad ever cooked dinner was if my mom had to work late or something, or I think for a short while she worked like second shift or something, and it was like weird to have my dad cooking dinner, because that was not his thing.
Like, just microwave hot dogs is what my dad would give us if he had to cook dinner.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was just like, but I raised my kids basically by myself. So it was like a different, like, my kids might have a different perspective of that type of situation than I did, because I was raised in a different type of family situation than even my own kids were. So I think it's like how you grew up, how you might perceive that culture.
I think he might have just been a little naive. I mean, he had never heard of the Donna Reed shows. He had never knew anything about it. I don't think, coming from his family, he had a mom and dad, and his mom did cook, and that's something that, apparently she enjoyed doing. But I personally didn't see it as being, a jab to, feminism or anything like that, as far as like what he expected. I think he was just very naive in the fact that he grew up around it. He's seen his mom doing it, and it was very natural, and didn't see anything wrong with it. And I think that was kind of where Rory maybe, educated him a little bit more on it. But for me, I don't think that was like a turning point of like not liking him at that point.
yeah, I agree with Jamie on that. She said it perfectly.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, like, I think Dean really got on the defensive in this situation, just because like he mentions to Rory, like, that was my mom's life for many years before she entered like the workforce, like before she started working. And so for him to kind of like sit down and, again, like the first time watching the Donna Reed show, and naively asking that question, like, oh, well, what if she likes this lifestyle? And Lorelai and Rory kind of giving him that look. I think he took it as a jab to maybe like an insult, like insulting the lifestyle that his mother lived, and kind of he probably saw that they were making light and making fun of like his mom in that sense. That's
exactly how I took it. I think that that's the life he grew up around, and it sounded to me like he was more defensive of his mother. And I'm curious to hear what you all think of Rory's answer to his question. I mean, because I think his question is legitimate. He's like, he asked her, like, what does that say about my mother? You know, and I don't think that she answered well, because she said, your mother had a decision, you know, like had the decision, but so many other women didn't, right? But he's saying that he thinks that, you know, that Donna Reed had the decision and wanted to do this. So I sort of pose that question to the group. What does that say about Dean's mother?
Go ahead, Beth.
Before we get to your question, John, I just wanted to say that I think this is one of the first episodes where we see Lorelai and Rory kind of judging people who don't live their exact lifestyle. Like, I think that when I was growing up, like, if somebody would have been like, we're watching Donna Reed, I would have been like, what in the world is that? Not that we were sheltered or if it was anything different, just that's not what my family watched. And the look that they gave him, just like, I know this is their show, their world, but I feel like they don't always treat people kindly who are not as into pop culture as them. And I think this is like the first time that we see it, but it's not the last.
Okay. So this is me not getting defensive about it, but okay, slightly. But I don't think they're necessarily judging per se. Because, I mean, everyone has a favorite TV show that if someone says something about said TV show, they give them the look that Lorelai and Rory gave Dean. I've done it. My friends have done it. My mom has done it. Like, it's like everyone has that TV show that they do that for. And I don't think like they're judging like that they don't live, other people don't live their lifestyle. I just think like it's exactly what I said. Like, they make a crack at a TV show, or when Dean was like, I think it's kind of nice. And I think, I don't know, and going back to like what John was saying about how Rory answered, like, I mean, women like didn't really have a choice back then on whether or not like they could go to work and stuff like that. And that's all that was kind of the norm, was women cooking for their husband and things like that. And yeah, Dean might have.
So is it really just the time period, the fact that Dean's mother is living in a different time and doing all, because it sounds to me like Dean's saying, well, my mother, you know, did a lot of what we're seeing Donna Reed doing. And so is it really just the difference between she lived at a time where we all know historically that so many women didn't have the choice, and Dean's mother lived at a time where more women had the choice, and so therefore by default she had the choice, and that's what she chose to do, and that's okay because of it.
I think so.
Mary,
because
Mary.
Sorry.
I just see Mary flashing her mic.
Sorry, I'm like cooking 7 things while I'm talking, so I just want to get the 2 things across. One, we are talking about Dean's mother through Dean's perspective. So if he says she liked it, it may not necessarily hold for what her own feelings were. And 2, he mentions that she was doing it before she started work. So it may have been simply that this was the natural divide of chores in their family. Their father was out and their mother was home, and she took care of the kids and she helped take care of do the cooking and so on. But clearly that changed when they moved to Stars Hollow and then she started working. So I think those are elements too that need to be included in the discussion, that just because Dean says it was nice doesn't mean it's telling the whole story.
That's a good point. Anyone else have thoughts on this? Tasha, do you want to continue? I know you still had your thought going on that.
Oh yeah, sorry. I tend to ramble. I'm so sorry. Where was I? I think to answer your question, I think it is kind of like a generational type thing, because if we kind of pin this to the way that that even Emily, because I know obviously Dean's mother is not the age of Emily, but they kind of were in the same kind of generation where things were by the books, things were the way they were, and things weren't changing, at least until later. And so I think like it's just a generational thing, because even, I mean, we don't know about Emily's past, but we can only deduce from like how old Emily is and how old her parents, like the time period her parents lived in. It's like things were a certain way and things evolved and changed, especially into the 60s and 70s and stuff like that. And so it's just a generational thing, like going to now, like 2021, to when the younger generations have kids and their kids have kids. So I think everything is just a generation thing, and things are going to change every generation. And so that makes sense.
I think we may have been just maybe reading a little bit more into it than it was. Like, I think when they looked at him kind of crazy, like, how do you not know who this is? Of course, they're like big time TV gurus, and they watch all these crazy shows and like, you know, older shows and not typically shows that everybody else would find popular, which is great. And I think they just kind of looked at him crazy, like, how do you not know who this, you know, these people are in this show is? And I don't think that they meant anything by it. I think Dean was just very naive and not understanding what the Donna Reed show was about and how maybe things were at that time frame, you know. And I think it was just one of those, like, it's just, yes, it made us think, but I think it was just like a big miscommunication that kind of got us to a funny point in the show. And then we kind of go into, you know, him and Dean showing up at the same time and finding out, you know, how Lorelai feels. So I feel like it was just kind of one of those little steps, and it really wasn't to be as serious as maybe we're over analyzing it to be.
I agree.
I actually didn't think that the scene when they're watching the show, that wasn't the part that got me thinking more. It was more the scene between Rory and Dean and the confrontation that they had about it, and his mother and her response to that. You know, just and I mean, I think that also interwoven into all of that is that they're both kids, you know, so they're also, you know, talking about this and thinking about this, you know, with that lens over it. And, you know, that I think that speaks to Mary's point, which is, you know, we don't really know. He doesn't really know exactly what his mother was feeling about her role. And, you know, it may have been much more mundane than that. You know, it may have been just, as you said, Mary, just simply like, that's the way their family divided the chores. I just thought it was an interesting answer to, you know, to his question, you know, what does that say about my mother? You know, just because in that moment, it certainly tells us that, you know, that Dean is insecure about their behavior and about the point of view, because he, you know, is thinking about his mother, and you know, and her response, which I think is a young response, you know, is also just like, you know, it doesn't really have, it's not a complete response for me, you know, because I feel like it doesn't totally get to what he's asking. I'm also curious what everyone's perspective on the whole, you know, dress up act and, like, you know, the whole role playing thing that happens later that night. You know, I feel like that's something that in general, I may need to simmer on to really understand what's going on there with Rory, why she did that. You know, was she insecure about? I mean, obviously it was a joke, but, you know, where did it come from? You know, given that their last interaction together was, you know, so tense.
I thought it was a little weird for Rory, but I thought it was something. Even though Lorelai was making fun of her, it seemed way more like a Lorelai move. Like, you know, to do something that big and funny to make a point like that, it just doesn't really seem as much of a Rory thing. Although I see it as Lorelai trying to step in, or sorry, Rory trying to step into Lorelai's shoes in some way to like be more confident, to be sexy, to be all of these things.
What was the point that she was trying to make? I guess that's the thing that I'm kind of question mark on.
That Donna Reed wasn't so bad, that doing that living that life wasn't so bad, and I think it was her way of like apologizing to Dean for the fight.
Got it. Okay, great. By the way, Valerie, I keep trying to bring you on, Valerie, and it's like I keep hitting the invite and it just keeps not working. I really don't get this whole Clubhouse. Like, there's so many little glitchy things here. But I'm trying to bring you up on stage onto the I'm trying to bring you up onto the couch, but it's not letting you for whatever reason. Anyway, continue on. Sorry.
I think I was about to say that always confused me. Even watching it, Dawn, I agree with you. It's like, what was Rory's point? Like, what was she trying to get across there? It's still seems kind of weird to me. Like, you know, her and Dean had this argument over it, and now she's dressing up as Donna Reed and making him dinner and being like extra sweet to him. You know, it's like, it seems kind of weird, but I didn't notice who just spoke, but it does make sense that maybe it was kind of Rory's way of apologizing for her.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. You know, apologizing and also ending the apology, you know, which is clearly like a big joke. You know, I mean, you know, it's not like a mean. Like there's no like spite in the joke. It's just like, it's like a cute little joke. Yeah, it's actually legitimately a delicious dinner. And then ending it with being like, turns out Donna Reed was really awesome and like, you know, kind of more feminist than I thought. So this apology thing, that jives with me.
How did you feel about her, Emily, finally getting Lorelai to admit that she had feelings for Luke?
Well, you heard me say it. I was disappointed by the way that she ended that. Like, it felt more tropey than it felt. I mean, you know, I guess the question I have is really, does Emily truly believe that? Like, does Emily truly believe that, like, he's, you know, not somebody she should be with, and what are you thinking, you know? Right. Or is that just part of her shtick with Lorelai, just always giving her grief, you know? Because why, you know? Like,
so good to finally
You
hear
can't really
Lorelai
answer it
say.
without spoiling stuff.
No, I thought it was so good to hear Lorelai finally at this point kind of be like, oh, well, maybe there's something, you know, like that kind of got me. Like, of course, I didn't like how Emily handled it, but the fact that we finally heard Lorelai kind of be like, maybe, you know.
Well, I thought it was really sweet, you know, when she's like, maybe, and then Emily says, thank you, you know, like that moment really was really nice. It was like a coming together. It was like showing like, this is all I really want, is to just simply be in your life and be somebody that you feel like you can share your feelings with and whatnot, you know, and then just end it with that, like, that last thing almost just felt more like, it felt just a little, you know, it just didn't, it was disappointing, you know.
Well, mean to Emily. It was just kind of mean. It was kind of mean what she said.
Yeah, it just felt very like, and this is the character, this is what she says, this is how she, you know, it felt like a button on the scene that, you know, was more in line with what we should know about Emily. And I guess I just question, like, why would she say something like that?
Classic.
I mean, I said, welcome to Emily, because that's Emily. Emily sets traps. And like, as she was talking and asking, I was like, it's a trap. Don't answer. 'Cause that's Emily.
And that's why I thought it was mean, because she got her daughter to confess something that she wasn't really admitting to herself yet. And then she just turned around and kind of was like, well, he's not worth it, kind of thing. And it's just kind of mean.
That's too bad.
I don't think Emily knew that she wasn't admitting it to herself yet, though. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving her too much credit, but the way she was like harping on that, like, Lorelai just can't, like, this thing is so obvious and you can't even admit this thing that's so obvious to me. Like, I took that to be sincere.
Well, she may not have known that she wasn't admitting it to herself, but that we all know that Lorelai wasn't really addressing the possibility herself. She was kind of avoiding it. Emily just assumed that Lorelai was keeping it from her, and because she's assuming those things, she kind of forces it out of her, and then she just kind of stomps on it a little bit at the end there.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anything that will definitely sour me on the Emily character, is if she continues to do that, because that's I just think it's sort of like, I think that Emily is a brilliant individual, right? I think she's just, she didn't get, any higher education, but if she had tried, I think she would have, gotten into a great school and would have been.
I don't know why you're saying that, John. Is there a reason you're saying that?
Yeah,
Did they say that she went to? They say that she went to school?
I don't think
Maybe
they
they
said
haven't said
either
that.
way, but I don't think they've given us any clue that she hasn't gone to a school.
Okay, maybe you're right. Maybe she has. I mean,
we know the answer.
Maybe you know the answer. Well, I think she's brilliant, right? Like, it was so clear in this episode. She picks up on tiny little nuanced details in a person's conversation. She's able to, like, she's just really smart. And so, a woman who has been so hurt by her daughter leaving and wanting so badly to, have them back in her life again, and all that, like, it seems odd that she would, do stuff like that, lay traps only to like, I mean, it just seems, I don't know, maybe smart people do stupid things sometimes, I guess. It just,
I can attest to that.
It doesn't jive with me completely, because I would just expect that she would know that she would know doing that kind of thing is exactly what's going to keep your daughter from wanting to ever tell you anything.
I don't know if she necessarily even is trying to build a relationship with Lorelai.
Really?
I almost like, I always get this, even in the beginning, I always have, like, so far, even what we've watched so far, it almost seems like she's not necessarily trying to build a relationship with her, as she is trying to have some sort of control or, have a say in what Rory does and how Rory, maybe not follows in the same footsteps as her. But I don't know. I just get this vibe of, like, her always needing to put her 2 cents in, but not being sincere and literally trying to have a solid relationship with her.
A salad relationship, like a salad, like a
salad.
first course.
No, like
a
solid, like a healthy relationship
a solid.
with her.
I was like, that is a very interesting way of talking about a superficial relationship, a salad relationship.
Sorry, solid.
I agree with Jamie. I actually think, as far as Lorelai is concerned, Emily feels entitled to the relationship. I don't think that she feels that she needs to actually build It should just be there, and it should be on her terms.
Okay. Huh.
What was the question? Because I kind of got sidetracked with something. So what's the question?
What was the question? I mean, I don't think it was a question. I was just
Exploring the relationship between
I was just
Lorelai
exploring
and
the
Emily.
relationship of Emily, and I was just saying, like, I think Emily's brilliant. Why would she be doing this kind of stuff?
Well, I think like
She's smart enough to know that, like, that's exactly how you're not going to have your daughter and your granddaughter come back into your life. But, you know, if she feels entitled to it, and then these are all spiteful. That's all spiteful behavior. That's just behavior, like, because you're annoyed that you're not getting what you want on your
I think
terms.
she's still angry at Lorelai for disappearing, and so this is her way of not dealing with it well, but trying to get information. That's just the way she goes about it. It's not the right way, but it's what she does.
Well, I think what I was thinking, I was kind of paying attention, but I kind of wasn't. But I think the way that what Emily said in that point where she was like, do you have feelings for this man? I don't know if she was necessarily trying to trap her necessarily, but like when, like if we think back to the dance episode when Emily was trying to be a mother to her and Lorelai kind of clued in on that and then just let her heat up the burrito, and Emily got super excited about that. Regardless of how the scene ended in the kitchen, I honestly think that she was actually really wanting to know, like, do you have feelings for this man because of X, Y, and Z? And then obviously she ended it the way Emily always would, was, okay, now we can get back to what you could possibly be thinking, because, like, I mean, without spoiling, I can't say what I think of that because I'm not. We'll find out, but I honestly think she was generally interested, and that's kind of like, regardless of how it ended, I think that's kind of her way of trying to get in with her daughter again. Because like, how do parents, unless you have like a Rory and Lorelai situation, parents kind of act that way when they're trying to know about your love life. They don't go about it in the way that like they probably should, but parents are generally interested in who their kid is interested in. So it's just Emily's way.
But my mother never would have reacted that way after getting me to confess something, and I don't have a Rory Lorelai relationship with my mother. I just think it's the way Emily is at this point in her relationship with Lorelai. She feels like Lorelai never will willingly tell her anything, so she has to somehow get her to admit things the hard way, and then she doesn't always respond the way she should.
Yeah.
I also feel like Emily knew the answer. Like when Emily was asking her, it wasn't that she was in doubt. She's telling her, I can see it, so why aren't you saying it? Are you doing it purposely despite me? So Emily knew what she was trying to get out of Lorelai, and when she got it, her immediate response is, okay, let's flip it around to, what a silly thing you're doing.
It's a bit of a narcissistic behavior, like borderline narcissistic with Emily.
Well, that doesn't sound borderline narcissistic. That sounds straight up narcissistic.
I was trying to give her the benefit of the doubt at this point, John. Okay, I was trying
So very much not borderline.
I feel like we should give her the benefit of the doubt, though.
I mean, I want to give her the
some
benefit
degree.
of the doubt. I'm like a huge Emily fan, so this that moment was really disappointing to me.
I mean,
Yeah,
now,
you've been all about
John,
Emily lately.
now you see why I said what I said online that one day about how sometimes I want to be on your side even when we're not supposed to be.
I mean,
Right.
we know what happens, so like we have our own times where like we're Team Emily, and like it's like, yeah, it's like.
Well, please
Love it.
tell me please tell me that I picked right with Team Babette at the very least.
Oh yeah,
Oh
definitely.
yeah.
How can you
Oh,
not?
not go wrong with Team
Oh.
Babette.
Or Patty.
That being
Team
said,
Babette,
she
Team
gets
Patty.
people into trouble.
Yeah, Babette, Patty, Kirk, they're always worth being on their side.
Kirk has done no harm. He would be more scared of like a freaking bumblebee than anything else. So
I love Sean.
anybody's
Penn.
Team
He's so
Kirk, you're
good.
fine.
Hey folks, I'm actually going to jump off. I've made everybody, as I do I've made everybody moderators here in the room. So essentially what that means is the last person to leave the couch area will close up the room. I think that it's interesting. You guys all have so many things that you want to talk about, but you're holding your tongue because you know that you can't tell them, because you can't talk about them because you know that I haven't seen it yet. So I encourage folks to stick around and continue talking, and know that I'm not here. And any folks who are in the audience and are watching this new for the first time, perhaps you'll also want to leave the room if any folks stick around to continue talking. And at this point, you can just start talking about the show in full. I will be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. for episode 15. As always, this was fun. This is a very strong episode, very high up there for me. And as always, I thank you for all of the insight that you provide as I'm watching this, and just also the comfort of watching with others. This episode, by the way, I would say was the least chatty. Like we were all like I was thinking, gosh, if anybody just walks into this room right now, they're going to have absolutely no idea what's going on. And there was something just so sweet. It's something so sweet about the whole thing, where we're all just captivated watching. We all know that we're all there on the other sides of our phones, and that's really, really cool. If you know any folks who you think would enjoy joining us, either up here on the couch or in the audience, please let them know about this and share your invites. We're using the GG invites hashtag on Twitter to let folks know, and just generally, let people know on social media that this is happening, and let's see if we can grow this watch party even bigger.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
The thing that I was getting distracted with, I posted on my Twitter. It's Gilmore related.
Okay.
So take a look at it. Don't hate me.
I would never hate you.
Okay.
But now I'm scared. Wait, I'm gonna go look at it right now. Sorry.
Oh, great, now.
Did you post it on your
on
your
my
Twitter?
On my Twitter profile? Yeah.
Hold on. Tasha Sierra. You pinned it?
It should be the first one on there.
This is my opinion. Haha. That one?
Don't come at me. But
and it's just, what is this? What is it?
It's ranking all the. You were on from season 4 on, so you probably know these characters anyway. But
it's ranking all of the
Gilmore Girls characters. Where you're placed, please don't hate me. Is why I said please don't hate me.
Where am I placed? I'm looking at it.
It must be who she would date on the Gilmore guys.
No,
You're up relatively high.
Well, why would I hate? Why would I hate you? Why would I hate you? That's super sweet. Like, why would I hate you?
Because
I don't know.
You as an icon.
No. If
You're
y'all
not
go,
Oh, is it because I'm in between the dog and Kirk?
well, okay. It wasn't like in any particular order. It's just like where it's all ranked. If y'all go to my Twitter, it's called Tier Maker. And I got into it earlier today from a Twitch stream that I was watching, and where you can like anything and everything. You can make a tier where it's like A, B, C, D, or whatever like that. And so this one is ranking all the Gilmore Girls characters.
Oh, wow.
Oh, he's just like B tier. That's okay. We like B-list celebrities.
Oh, I'm B-list. I'm the first to tell you that I'm like B-list at best. I'm typically I'm typically in the D's.
All the people who know the series, the last line, I think we can all agree.
You beat Taylor.
Yeah. This is legitimate.
Thank you.
John, you're a trendsetter, though. Like, Scott just announced that he's doing a podcast, watching every episode, and I was like,
oh,
dude,
I'm sure that I did not set that trend. First of all, rewatch podcasts have been going on for a while. They're very popular. I'm sure that he had been planning that for a while, and certainly don't think that he was inspired by what we're doing.
We were more than happy to stay watching it with you, John.
You watch
the
both?
first.
Well, I mean, look, I mean, I'm getting really into the show. I might actually want to listen in on his podcast. Like, I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like itching for some Gilmore content, you know?
He also
We were talking
is
about this
doing
earlier
it
at
with
the 5
the
o'clock
band.
showing. And I was gonna say, like, you should probably, like, someone should invite Scott Patterson on the club.
Oh my god.
Oh my God, that's a real question mark. What would he
so
say
nervous.
if we were like, hey Scott, you're rewatching all of these episodes. Why don't you watch one of them with us? I'm curious. All right, guys, I really got to get. I got to get running. Thank you again. I'll see you all tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or most
Good
of you.
night.
Definitely.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.